Hello and welcome to another edition of the Mexican Soccer Show. I'm your host Cesar Hernandez, here filling in for Wiesel Vasquez, who's I have no idea where he's at. I think he might be at Coachella or something. Obviously doing things which are much more important than Mexican football. I'm just messing with you, Wiesel. I know you might be listening to this later. Tonight we're going to talk about Chivas, we're going to talk about America, we're going to talk about Chicharito, and of course your favorite thing in the whole world, Article 19. I know that's the most interesting thing that you can find about this current situation in Mexican soccer. But before we get into that, let me introduce our guest. Let's go to Tom Marshall, who might be doing audio only because of an internet problem over in Guadalajara. Tom, can you hear us? And hopefully we can hear you. Tom, how are you doing?
Oh,
Maybe not. I don't know. Maybe not. I'll give you another second, Tom. Oh man, he just got fired from the show. Oh well, I guess just gonna be me and Naib. Naib over in Mexico City. How you doing, man?
hi, buenas noches, Cesar, and also Tom and all the audience that is watching. Yeah, the technical difficulties they always come, especially here in Mexico, where the internet connection sometimes is not the best of the best, you know. But an interesting weekend, I think overall. You know, Pulido scored goal, Chicharito, Jimenez. Important for Mexican forwards to be scoring in Europe, and also in Mexico, we're seeing an enchanting moment for Chivas, which I think hasn't been seen for quite a while. And also, America is pulling big numbers in the last week, especially with its forwards, Oribe Peralta and Darwin Quintero.
No, that's an excellent point. Oribe has what 9 goals now, and he's just one away from having. I think it would top his best season ever, if I remember
Yeah,
correctly.
tied. So it's 4 games left, and he could actually surpass that. And it's an interesting moment because that's Mexico national team call up, and there was a lot of debate as to or uncertainty as to why he wasn't in the call up. But of course, Osorio wanted to see other forwards. But I think Peralta will definitely, if he keeps this streak going, will be one of the forwards in the Centenario.
Yeah, and I'm sure we'll be talking about this later. We can go straight into this. We can jump right into it. And I could tell you that maybe he could be a striker in the Olympics as well. But before we start that whole chat, let's first start with one of the bigger news of the weekend, which was Chivas' 3-0 win over Puebla. Naib, you were there. Tell us about the match. Tell us about the experience as well, since you were actually there in the stadium watching the game.
No, it was 45,000 plus fans that went to the stadium. In Puebla, there's factories of Volkswagen and BMW. So I saw a lot of German football fans at the Estadio Cuauhtémoc, which is interesting. You know, of course, now Chivas has this connection in German football with Chicharito and Marco Fabian, which I think Bundesliga has done an excellent job promoting this match, by the way. The Bayern and Eintracht Frankfurt that will happen this weekend. But the experience was basically, I'd say more than half of the stadium was Chivas fans, and the other small chunk was Puebla. Uh, it was a crucial game for both because both came in at 15 points. Chivas, wanted to get a convincing visiting victory, and they did, I think. And a lot of the fans that went to the stadium, even fans that came all the way from Guadalajara to Puebla, I think left them with a good taste of what they saw.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I really like how exciting the offense looks for Chivas.
Mm-hmm.
And I think against Puebla, who is a team that is known for having a good possession of the ball, they were basically dispossessed by Chivas. So a good moment that Chivas is living overall.
All right, let's go over to Tom. Tom, if you can hear us, I don't know if you're doing audio or video only, but give us your quick thoughts on Chivas' win against Puebla over the weekend.
Yeah, I think Chivas, the games against Pumas and Monterrey. Monterrey was a real surprise. And then the question was, can they back it up against Pumas? And they did in style. And then against Puebla, which could have been like the banana skin really, because that's not the big game. The Monterrey and Pumas were both big games, but going away to Puebla, really tricky game. So they've come over it, and I think now you'd say the favourites to make the playoffs. So yeah, it's all changed around, and I think it shows as well, just like the Mexican League, just just how quickly things can turn around for teams, because it's only like 3-4 weeks ago we were talking about Chivas, relegation. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, most definitely. Now they're officially out of the relegation race. Right now, Dorados, they need to win every single one of their games. And the only way they can have some sort of salvation is if Morelia doesn't get more than 2 points in their last 4 games. That seems highly unlikely for them. So right now, with that problem now behind them, would we say? I mean, I'm going to ask you now. Are without the relegation problem, like in the back of Chivas' mind, are they going to be a playoff team?
I think one of the big questions with Chivas coming into the start of the season was its lack of goal scorers. It was all dependent on Omar Bravo and him having a good season. Well, all of a sudden, Omar Bravo has started the games on the bench, and there have been other players that have stepped up, like Brizuela, like Gullit, like Cisneros, like Saldivar, and all of this, and also, of course, the famous Chofis Lopez, who we can't forget about him. And all of these additions have sort of catapulted the team to another level. Because let's keep in mind, Chivas is the second best defense in the league right now. The second best defense, right behind Pachuca, only by 1 goal basically. And the defense, I think, is solid with Jair Pereira and Salcedo leading from the center of the defense, and also Salcido. With Salcido, he's a holding midfielder, but he's a sort of holding midfielder that becomes like a third center back. Against Puebla, he rarely attacked. It was mainly defense all the time. And I think that's really helpful to bring balance to the team, especially to this team like Chivas that has so many speed up front with Orbelin, Gullit, Saldívar, Cisneros, and Brizuela right now with Almeida in his view of how to do the strategy of the team.
Actually, what really stood out to me in that game, we could talk about the beautiful play from Chivas and whatnot, but I think what stood out to me the most was Omar Bravo hugging Almeida after that goal, because he was Chivas' all-time leading goal scorer. He was the captain. He was there in the starting 11. He gives him one opportunity after being on the bench in recent games, and the first person he goes to after scoring that goal was the manager who put him on the bench. And I felt like that was, I don't know, it kind of completed that match. It kind of said that like everyone's believing in Almeida's idea. Even Bravo, who has been benched, who might have recognized that he shouldn't be in the starting 11 anymore. And I think that was important for me to recognize in that match.
Yeah,
Tom,
and I think also Raul Lopez, who was also benched. There's a photo doing the rounds, I think, on internet as well, and he's been benched for Chapo Sanchez, who Chivas fans are just can't believe that he's still even at the club, and even he's playing well now. So you got Salcido. I think many people thought this might be his last season. He was all of a sudden, like Naib was pointing out, there, amazing. Really gluing the team together. You've got Chapo Sanchez, who people really thought, this is a second division player at best. I mean, his crossing has been awful for the last few years. I mean, and all of a sudden he's playing well. Aris Hernandez on the left, I don't think is that good, but he's also playing really well. You know what I mean? And I think that it's just all come together. And I don't know. You have to give Almeida credit. I give him most credit because he's stuck with an idea. I think he's stuck with an idea of attacking football, of kind of overloading the attack and creating options, and it's come together now. But I don't know, in terms of the team choices, I suspect there's a bit of luck to it as well. The way he's changed, like Donio Rodriguez for Cota in goal, and the Raul Lopez and Jesus Sanchez. I just think the team were playing that bad that any manager would have kind of made those changes. But that's not taking anything away from Almeida, who's he's created a really good team spirit there, and yeah, I've been here like 8 years living in Guadalajara, and it's like this is like, apart from 2010 when like Chicharito was banging in the goals in the the Copa Libertadores final, this is probably the only time that I can say it's genuinely fun to watch Chivas games. Like you tune in. I tuned in on Sunday and I was like, you know what? Is Chofis going to play? He's going to be on the bench. He was on the bench. Then you look at the team. You're like, you know what? It's a really good team. It's an exciting, attacking young team, and I think that's what Chivas are about.
So before we move on and talk about America, because I'm sure we could talk about Chivas for a long time. all the fans, you can see everybody on the YouTube chat right now. Everybody's talking about trophies right now. So before we move on to America, I want you guys to just tell me a couple of thoughts on trophies. Whether what you predict he will do, whether you think he's a good player or not, just anything on trophies. Just give us just some quick thoughts on trophies. I'm going to go to Naive first.
I think it's an exciting talent as a Mexican footballer. I think we don't know how his lifestyle is. If it's resemblant of, for example, Marco Fabian and the inconsistencies there that Marco Fabian had. His showing has been explosive. It's been an erupting kind of debut for him that has surprised many. And of course, he has that nickname that just attracts attention in masses. But his football has been top quality. I mean, the goals he scored against Monterrey and the goal he scored against Pumas was the penalty against Puebla. Well, you can say, well, it's pretty impressive that he can go out to Bravo and say, I want to take this penalty kick. Let me have my shot. So it's all been quick, but let's give it time. I mean, I think how Almeida's speaking to the media. Actually, in the game against Puebla after the match, in the mix zone, he was taken out by a special guard, so really good care of him. And it's just a process. I mean, hopefully he does turn out to be another great Chivas talent.
Tom, thoughts on trophies?
No, I mean, he's just yeah, I mean, I've watched him on the 20s level as well in the games that I've gone to in Guadalajara, and he stands out. You know what I mean? He stands out because at a certain point he doesn't look like a footballer. He doesn't move like a footballer. He's got his sleeves over his hand, and he looks like he don't really care a lot of the time. And then he'll just do something like that makes you take a step back and think, wow. But yeah, like Naib said, the other thing that worries me is that he hasn't been that involved in youth national teams, and I question why. You know what I mean? What is behind that? Why hasn't he been picked? Because he's obviously talented. If us three can stand here and say we've watched him for the limited amount of time we have and say this kid has something, then imagine the national team scouts who've watched him regularly. Why haven't they picked up on it? Why was Almeida, when he first got to Chivas, so adamant about saying, basically we've got a real talent here, but he has to keep his feet on the ground, and I'm going to make sure he does. Why was that in particular with him? So yeah, that's the thing with Chaffetz. I mean, he's obviously talented, but he's got to do it consistently. I mean, I think Bravo's a great example there. I think Omar Bravo's a great person to have around the club, and the same with Carlos Salcido. I mean, both of them have been there and done it, and it's good that at Chivas now there's still a couple of old school pros who can show these young kids how to live their lives and stuff.
Yeah, most definitely. I think that's the big thing that you just pointed out is if we see this consistently. I mean, we've seen plenty of players. I mean, he's in Chivas. That's why he gets a lot of attention. It's a young Mexican talent, so everybody gets justifiably excited. But let's see this extended. Let's see this in multiple games, and hopefully, maybe if he continues this, maybe he might get called up to the Olympic squad. You never know. But no, as you mentioned, I think it's key for us not to overhype him, although a lot of us really do overhype that player, and it's key for us to see how he does within the next few months. Let's give it time. Let's give it time, guys. Let's not get too excited just yet, although it is pretty exciting to see his goals. All right, let's move over to America. America 6, Tijuana 1. This is a game where Xolos went up 1-0. It looked like maybe Tijuana was going to have, they're going to continue their unbeaten away form, and then America responded with a few goals of their own. Naib, give us your thoughts on that match, that one-sided match, which I wrote about and said it was one of the worst ever losses ever for Tijuana.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was a really good win for America. I would say, in the regard of, there was a lot of nostalgia beforehand because Miguel Herrera was coming. I think Miguel Herrera, when the game started, he sort of felt that he was still the America coach. But as the game progressed, everything just turned out to be, sort of a nightmare for him because now he's on the other side with Xolos, and the score was really struck to see Xolos fall that dramatically. And then as they scored the first goal, I think it was a nice one, and Dairo Moreno to Auche, but then all of a sudden it just all fell apart. And I think there was a really a disconnection with the midfielders and the defense. Especially Gandolfi. But I think Gandolfi was the main this from the center of the defense. He really didn't move slow. The passes were off, and you saw a little bit of off passes from the midfield. And then you see America, who's sort of in a hot streak, scoring wise, scored 16 goals in their last 5 matches. Every time they had a space, they took it and they scored the shots. They were really sharp in front of goal, and I think that is so.
No, I most definitely agree. I think with the Gandolfi thing too. I mean, this you could argue this was the second game in a row which he really hurt Tijuana. In the last game, he got that red, and I watched a few red replays of that red. It was a dumb challenge. I think it should have been a direct red that was given, even though it was taken away from the FMF and they allowed him to play in the next game. I thought it was a dumb one. And after that red was given to him, Tijuana lost that last game 4-2 after they were up 2-0. In this match,
Gallos Blancos has been awful.
Yeah, exactly, and that's an excellent point. That was supposed to be the match for Piojo Herrera to get his first home win, and then after that, it was tough to see. I could only imagine how tough it was for the fans at the stadium. I think Gandolfi was definitely at fault in that game, and I think Federico Villar as well. I think he had some questionable decisions as well. But as for America, that must have been an exciting match. It was hard for me in the second half because 4 or 5 of those goals, I want to say 4 actually, came after the 70th minute. And it was hard for me to keep up with the goals. I was like on the Twitter account trying to do my best to update fans on the scores. But I mean, Carlos Darwin Quintero, he was just having a good time out there. He was having a blast. And this was after Oribe Peralta scored his 9th goal this season as well. So you could say, I mean, with Quintero and Peralta and with America getting, their 5th victory in a row, things are really looking up for them right now.
And Benedetto scored a goal, which I think was important, for him to get back on the score sheet. I mean, it was quite funny how Omar Bravo and Benedetto scored their first goal of the year, basically, in the same week. But what you said, Cesar, I think it's important right now for Ambriz to see how many options he has, because in this Cholos he started William da Silva, and William da Silva had been one of those players that he had several starts at the start of the season, and then he got a red card, I think, if I'm not mistaken, against Tigres, and I think he had like a 3-game suspension, and that sort of hindered him in his options of being a starting in America. But he returned to the starting role against Cholos. We'll see if he starts against his former club next Friday against Gallos Blancos. But it's an William Silva offers several things to America that Chepe Guerrero doesn't offer. It's really that left foot he has is really good, and then also he's really good at defensive coverage over there with the center backs, Goltz and Pimentel, who also did well against Cholos.
No, most definitely. And I'd be interested to see how they balance this out as well with the CONCACAF Champions League final. And, going up against Tigres, we know Tigres are struggling recently, but they're not an easy opponent. There is no way at all whatsoever that anybody could say that they're an easy opponent. So it'll be interesting to see how they balance those out. So.
Yeah, and just recently in Houston, they played a friendly during the FIFA dates, and I think Tigres got like a 4-1 victory. So it was a big victory for Tigres. But then again, both squads were limited because they had several national team players. I mean, I think Gignac was with France, and America had people in the U.S. and in Ecuador and Paraguay. So they weren't the complete teams, but the score in the friendly is there.
Yeah, and you look at what America could achieve. I mean, right now, Tigres and Monterrey are going to be in their way in the Liga MX and in the CONCACAF Champions League final. But there is, I'm not going to say a good chance, but there's a decent chance that in their 100-year anniversary, they could win the CONCACAF Champions League final, play in the Club World Cup, and win this season's title. It's not a ridiculous thought to assume that might happen, and especially as we mentioned, like with the form that Peralta is in as well. So.
Yeah, I think a lot of things are clicking, but then again, you still think about the Club World Cup and how horrible that was. You know, it wasn't the best of performance. That was the first major test for Ambris. Of course, the Liguilla, that they went all the way to the semis and on the verge of eliminating Pumas in that crazy semifinal series.
Mhm.
But you still have questions. You know, is Ambris gonna go pull it off against someone like Tuca Ferretti?
Yeah.
Is Ambris gonna be able to pull it off against someone like Turco Mohamed, who already won a title with Cholos and with America? You know, those are gonna be interesting things to see in the upcoming weeks.
Well, outside the CONCACAF Champions League, I think Tuca's struggling a little bit. And Tom, let's go over to you. I'm sure you could easily jump into this after we just brought you back on. But thoughts on America? We were talking about how they completely tore apart Tijuana. We're talking about basically their chances of winning a CONCACAF Champions League final and also potentially winning this season's Clausura title.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, America, like I think I said before, are up there in top 4 teams in the league. So I don't see any problem in them, you know, challenging for the title. You know, I think there's Monterrey, Tigres, Pachuca up there, and I think, you know, America right up there as well. So, you know, I think that's what they can do against Tijuana. I know Tijuana aren't one of the best teams in the league, but that's what they can do. And you look at the strike force that they've got, and that they've had for the last 12 months, 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they can do damage like that. And I think, you know, if you've got Quintero and Peralta, I mean, look at Peralta at the minute. I mean, you know, he's won titles before. When he's banging in goals on that form, you know, then everything is possible for me. But yeah, I mean, you know, Ambris needs to do something in those big games. You know what I mean? He really does. Like Nair was saying, that he has to make an impact. But you know, he's been there a while now. He's settled in. The team are playing more to his style. So I don't know. I think if I'm an America fan, I'm looking at the CONCACAF Champions League final and I'm confident. And then, you know, as the league goes forward, I'm thinking there's no reason that we can't take this. You know.
Yeah, and they did. I will say they did make a statement on Saturday. They scored 6 goals against Tijuana. They equaled the same amount of points against Monterrey. Monterrey probably saw that. Maybe it was the middle of the game. Maybe that was some sort of inspiration. But Rayados, they ended up beating Chiapas 6-0, and I think that was by far like one of the more one-sided games I've seen in a while. I mean, it was by the 63rd minute, without Rogelio Funes Mori, the Rayados were already up 6-0. It was easy. It was a cakewalk for them. It was a cakewalk for them. Really quickly before we go on to the rest of Liga MX scores, what are your guys' thoughts on Monterrey, who I would say, I mean, I don't even know if many would argue against it, who are the current most likely title contenders? Tom, your thoughts, since you've been gone for about 20 minutes.
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah, I think I said it at the start of the season. I thought they had a great chance, and one of the main reasons, apart from the quality that they've got in the squad, is the fact that they had a full pre-season. So you know, I think they just eased into the season a lot better. The only thing I point out Monterrey, because they're pretty much qualified now. It's like these last 3-4 games that are coming up. It's like, you know, how important can they keep the rhythm? It has been a problem before, because when you don't have to win, when it's not a must-win game, then I think it's difficult for players to get that extra 1% out of the bodies. So I think that it's going to be, but you have to put them first. What else? Yeah, the only quick thing about Chiapas, I mean, you know, I feel sorry for them down there. I mean, I think La Volpe's done a decent job, but if you don't pay your players, you know, if you don't treat them properly, then you know, it's very difficult for them to be 100% motivated. I'm not saying players only play for money, but you know, it comes to a point where if you don't treat people well, then they're not going to perform for you. And I think that's exactly what's happened with Chiapas. And like, you know, how embarrassing is it that a team's manager is coming out and saying, you know what, my players are playing right now. Like we're seeing this as like a kind of window, a window to be seen by other teams, so we can move. I mean, that's embarrassing. Like Chiapas in the south, I think it's got one of the highest poverty indexes, and you know how much good a team in a state like Chiapas could do on the social level. And you look at how the teams run, and you think it's awful. It's you know, it's completely not how it should be.
You mean those jerseys that say "plant a tree" and like "save the forest"?
Yeah.
That's not enough for you, Tom. It's just these randomly chosen slogans that they just put all over.
Yeah, the state is also ruled by the Green Party, which has absolutely nothing to do with any concept that you might have of what a Green Party stands for.
Yeah, I learned that when I went down to one Guadalajara with Thomas. Oh, look at these guys. Got a little toucan on their logo. That's pretty cool,
Yeah.
man. I dig it. Nope.
And then they like campaign for like the death penalty and stuff. It's like, you what? You what?
All right. Well, before anybody from the Mexican government starts listening to our show and starts criticizing us, let me quickly go over the let me quickly go over the rest of the scores, and you guys feel free to stop me if there's anything you want to say about these scores. So, Querétaro defeated Querétaro tied Toluca 0-0. Santos beat Veracruz 2-0. Dorados beat Cruz Azul 3-0 right there. They're alive. They're not alive for very much longer, but they're alive just a little bit longer. Hopefully, if Morelia doesn't, as I mentioned, according to my math could be wrong. Morelia just needs to collect 2 more points in order to be safe. But if they collect only 1 point in their last 4 matches, and if Dorados continue winning, you never know. Pumas, they lost to León 2-1. Pachuca, they beat Tigres 2-1. And Atlas lost to Morelia 1-2. Any thoughts on those Liga MX scores? Any thoughts on those matches that I just mentioned? Naib, anything at all? Or
No, well, I think Morelia is coming out of an interesting streak. You know, they Pachuca next weekend, and I think that will sort of be a good test to see what. I mean, Morelia's in the Liguilla zone right now. So I mean, I think it's really interesting to see what they're up to. Cruz Azul, they're going through a slump. You know, they lost to Namifuno, and then they lost against the Dorados. You know, technically, you know, Necaxa is an Ascenso MX team. Dorados is bound to be another Ascenso MX team. They scored 6 goals past Cruz Azul's defense. So it's a little bit worrying there with Massa, Cata being the center backs there in Cruz Azul. But I think Cruz Azul has been a little bit weakened because they don't have Chaco, Victor Vázquez, and Jorge Benítez, who was their top goal scorer. So I think that has hurt Cruz Azul.
I think Jorge Benítez being out really hurts him. I think Chaco as well, who was an excellent option off the bench. He was like scoring every time he came off the bench. Tom, your thoughts on the Liga MX scores? Anything that stands out to you?
Yeah, it's a bit of a weird season, isn't it? Really, when you're just talking there about like Morelia being in the Liguilla spots, and then I think Santos Laguna are right up there as well. And you don't think, oh, they've had a really good season. You know what I mean? You don't think Morelia, they've had a really good season. You don't even think Chivas. I mean, Chivas 3 weeks ago were having a nightmare season. Like they hadn't even won until week 10. So I think, I mean, every year there's like criticism about the league and the system. But I think this year especially, it seems to be like, or this season in particular, it seems to be like teams have come from absolutely nowhere, and all of a sudden they're just kind of in there, and all of a sudden Tigres are out of there, and Cruz Azul are on the down as well, and you're like, it's difficult to kind of take it all in really. But yeah, I think I'll just go quickly Morelia because I watched them against Atlas, and I didn't see anything special. I really didn't. I didn't see anything that gets me excited. Pablo Velasquez up front is a good player, but he's not one of them that you're like getting out your seat and like, wow, this is going to be amazing. And then Atlas, I mean, just another. They've got a lot of experience, but they're just not exciting. They're not. I think it's worth pointing out. It's been about just over 2 years since TV Azteca bought Atlas, and there was so much hype, and even I was writing stuff like, I think Atlas are now going to be a team like Santos Laguna that is like regular making liguillas. Not saying they're going to be like winning titles every season, but they're going to be up there. They're going to be up there, and to be bottom of the league is an absolute disaster. I mean, it really is.
To have Dorados getting more points than you, it's just
getting more points. Yeah. No, yeah, it's a disaster, and let's see what happens at Atlas. I think they need a new sporting director now. The manager Gustavo Costas. I mean, is he the right person? Has he shown any point this season that he's the right person? I mean, I don't know. I just don't think there's somebody up top with the brains and everything's flowing down from that person. I just think it's all the decisions season started, and the sporting director went down to South America, Argentina, and he's like, he's got a few coaches in mind. It's like, if you go to Argentina, it's because you're going to go and get a coach our manager who you want because you want this system of play and you know this guy works well with the youngsters or whatever your requisitos are as a manager for your club. That's what you look for in your manager, and I just don't see it at all in Atlas.
Yeah. Sorry, really quick update because everybody's talking about in the chat right now. So Toluca was losing 1-0, and now out of nowhere, now they're winning 2-1 against San Lorenzo in the Copa Libertadores. Everybody's talking about it right now. Everybody rooting for those. Everybody rooting for those Mexican clubs right now. So it looks like it was in the 80th minute. So it looks like Toluca might walk away with easily with a victory here in the Copa Libertadores. Sorry for cutting you off there. It was 2 goals by Toluca in the last 10 minutes. But yeah, no, I agree with you what you just said, even though I already forgot what you said. But Tom, what you said made sense to me, and I'm sure it made sense to Naib as well. All right, so before we go over to a certain player named Chicharito, any last thoughts on Liga MX? Anything regarding Liga MX? Oh, you were talking about Atlas. There you go. I think Atlas needs a big name striker. Maybe they shouldn't have brought Rafa.
Yeah,
Maybe they should have. That's what they need is a big name striker, I think. But yeah, any quick thoughts from either you, Naib, on Liga MX in general?
No, we'll see. I mean, this week I think is the Clásico Tapatío, and Tom will be there in Guadalajara because like Tom said, I mean, Atlas looks awful right now. It looks like a disaster. Surprising, Atlas manages to get a result against Chivas. Atlas beat Pachuca this season.
Tom, any last thoughts about Liga MX? Who's a striker that Atlas should sign?
Yeah, it's crazy. No, yeah, to say someone better than what they've got, man. I mean, Bergesio, he works really hard, but I don't know. They need to spend some money. They need to go out there and spend like money on proven talent and stuff, and then mix that with. We don't have long enough. We don't have long enough on the show, but yeah, yeah. I think the other one's Tevez. Tevez is fascinating to me at the minute because I can't put my finger on exactly what has gone wrong. I see no reason for him to be doing so poorly. You know, the manager has been in place, the players have been in place, and we're struggling to kind of understand how they've just suddenly just like fallen off a cliff. I mean, it's been that severe, the drop in form, I think.
Mm-hmm. I believe it is 1 win in the last 7 or 8 games. I forget what the exact number is. It is definitely worrying for Tigres. At the same time, they're right there. They can easily jump back into the playoffs. But as I talked about Naib with earlier, I mean, they still have to have that. I mean, they're going to be taking part in the CONCACAF Champions League final. And I think, personally, I don't think if they don't win one title, whether it be Liga MX or whether they don't win the CONCACAF Champions League title, I think that'd be seen as a complete failure. That's what I see, especially with that roster. All right, so let's go over to a certain player named Chicharito. I don't know if you guys have heard of him. He's kind of a big name, scores every now and then in Germany, but right now he has 25 goals in all competitions, and he has 16 league goals. And remember, keep in mind, he joined the team. He made his debut for Bayer Leverkusen during Week 4. He had an injury recently. He was suspended, but he's still been able to do all this. Guys, is this going to be, or is this already the best season of Chicharito's career? Tom, you're best friends with Chicharito's family over in Guadalajara. Is this going to be the best? Is this already the best season, or is it going to be the best season of his career?
Probably, if you look at it statistically, but I think his best season in his career was that first one with Man United, where he came from absolutely nowhere. And everyone was like, oh, you know, he's going to be number 3, 4 choice, and nobody even really knew him. Nobody knew him. Only people here who watched Chivas and stuff actually knew who he was. And then for him to go there and within 8-9 months suddenly be starting. Let's be honest, by Leverkusen and fighting in Champions League finals. They're not fighting even for the Bundesliga title. So yeah, Chicharito, what he's done is brilliant, and obviously it's not surprising either because he's a top player. But you know, I don't think you can say it's as good just because of he's not final, isn't it? Incredible.
Sounds like Tom's internet was also just as excited about Chicharito and went out for a little bit there. But I think we got a gist of what you were trying to say. You were saying that, like, his first season at Manchester United, when nobody really knew who he was, that's when that's what could have been considered to be his best season ever. Naib, your thoughts? Who is this his best season ever? Maybe there's something in potential for him? Is he going to step up to a bigger team next year? I did see something. I don't know if it was confirmed or not, that someone from Bayer Leverkusen said that obviously they need to keep a player like Chicharito and some other key players, but if the right offer comes, the right offer comes. I don't know. Just think about Chicharito.
Yeah, the future Chicharito, it's hard to tell at the moment. But what Tom was saying, the first year in Manchester United was exceptional. It was miraculous in all aspects. He played in a Champions League final. It was crucial in those games against Chelsea and the Champions League semis, important goals in the league as well. It was a crucial moment, but he was still sort of considered or dubbed the super sub in that case, in some way or another. And here in Leverkusen, he's
Thank God he's not
probably
that's for sure.
yeah, in Leverkusen, he's considered a key player for the team. If Chicharito doesn't play for Leverkusen, Leverkusen really has a lot of problems. Let's put it that way. I think a good achievement for Chicharito, speaking in team terms, would be if Leverkusen does make it into the Champions League for next season. If Leverkusen does, in fact, stay in the top places in Bundesliga to win a place in the Champions League, I think that could be considered an achievement. Because on a personal basis, an individual basis, I think he's just racking up the numbers, and they're climbing. And we're still, in April. There's still several weeks for the end of the season to come up. But individually, I think it's a great season. Especially after what he lived in Real Madrid, and then what he lived in the first month with Manchester United over there with Louis van Gaal. So I think it's overall, I think it's been exceptional, but it doesn't match that first year in Manchester United because
There we go.
it's
All right.
just too much.
So Tom and I both say the first season. So you guys both agree that the first season was his greatest season.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, and I think this season there'll be a lot of clubs in Europe thinking, why on earth didn't we go and get him? You know what I mean? I think there'll be a lot of clubs being like, what? Why did we had, he was on the market. Everybody knew he was on the market, and Leverkusen just rubbing their hands, being like, what a signing. I mean, maybe the best had done, and probably on the marketing side as well. It's like Leverkusen's in the forefront now.
No, I most definitely agree.
Yeah, I think the question now, and I think you, Cesar, posed the question, and also Tom already elaborated a little bit, is will we see Chicharito next year in Leverkusen? And it's a complicated question because we want to see Chicharito having minutes all the time. We don't want him to go back into that sort of dilemma of having three forwards, star forwards in front of him. We want him to go to a club where we know that he's probably going to be an important player. And the options are very few. And when you look at the markets in Europe, which teams stand out. I mean, you can say maybe a Liverpool, because Sturridge is always injured. Origi is a young striker, a Belgian striker, but Chicharito already played for Man U. How would that affect if he goes to Liverpool with the rivalry and all of that? But or what if Leverkusen does sell Lewandowski and Ancelotti comes in as a Bayern Munich coach, and Ancelotti already knows Chicharito. So all of these questions are up in our minds, and we don't really have a good answer.
And I think also a big problem too is that when we, as Mexico fans, when we think of the teams that Chicharito can play on, unfortunately, 90% of those teams he would be a backup player. He'd be back on the bench, and that's unfortunate. And maybe looking at those considerations, Bayer Leverkusen is his perfect situation. If they can still be playing Champions League soccer, then why wouldn't he continue to be a part of that squad as opposed to being a backup player on an EPL side or with Bayern Munich, or who knows? But it's just I really want Chicharito to be at the top of the top and playing the best team in the world, but I think in reality, maybe Bayer Leverkusen might be the perfect fit for him at this moment.
Yeah, but plus he's also been at, possibly, two of the world's biggest three clubs.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of stature. So I think he's already done that. You know what I mean? And there's not many players anywhere in the world that can say that.
No. That's an excellent point as well. And he scored for that team. And he scored plenty of goals for 9 goals for Real Madrid. He scored, what is it, like 83,000 for Manchester United on the bench, and he was averaging a goal every 13 minutes, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
All right, so let's go over then. Once again, like Chivas, like Omega, we can talk about Chicharito forever. So any final thoughts on Chicharito before we go over to the rundown of the rest of Europeos?
Chicharito, no, I think he's just, he's obviously excelling. I think, Mexico's best player. And I think, he's what he's doing this season is just furthering his reputation and his legacy, because look at it now, he's an absolute undisputed national team starter as well.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And I think that's absolutely great that we can now say that, because, well, Chicharito, the last 2 World Cups he's gone into and not been the starter, which for me was ridiculous. But that was the situation for a kid who, like, no, he's not a kid anymore, but a player who's
he's
kind
27.
of,
I think he's 27, right?
Yeah, but the fact that he's, he's scored so many. No, the fact that he's so important for Mexican soccer on a world level and not been a star of the World Cup, I think I'm really happy for him that when he goes to the Mexican national team now, he's not kind of worrying about, am I going to be behind Oribe Peralta? Am I going to be behind, somebody, Giovanni Dos Santos? Because, I mean, he's a better player than those players, you know what I mean?
No, I most definitely agree. Naib, any last thoughts? I completely agree with Tom right now in that situation.
I think the Chicharito is a perfect example of what a Mexican ambassador to the world should be. I think he really represents the country at its biggest form. Even better than a president, I would say. And I think that is really remarkable that it comes from a soccer player. I think you could. There's no one is perfect in this world, but this guy has a lot of perfection in his way that he acts, and he acts off the field and on the field. So I think Mexico's really lucky to have a Chicharito.
No, I agree as well. I like the fact that you said he was an ambassador, because he really is. The guy is a complete professional. He always gives his all on the pitch, and you can tell just with his interaction with the media and fans, he's amazing to deal with. And a few of my passwords online might have Chicharito's name on them. I'm not gonna lie. So if any of you want to crack into my account, just Chicharito blah blah blah. Try to figure it out.
What kind of accounts are these, or do we not want to know?
Tom, you most definitely do not want to know. All right. All right. So like I said, we can wax poetically about Chicharito for days and months and years. But let's go into the rest of Europeo. So I'm gonna go through the rest of Europeo scores and.
Don't go there. Don't go there.
All right, so I'm gonna go through the rest of Europeo scores, what they've done, and stop me whenever you feel like you need to say something, or maybe just say something afterwards. So we had Ochoa. He had.
Why did you burst out laughing?
What was that?
Why did you burst out laughing before?
I don't know. I think it's this delay right now that we have. I laughed at something, and you laughed at something. Now I think we're just laughing at each other, to be perfectly honest. All right, so Tom, you really distracted me. I'm trying to be professional here. I'm trying to host a professional show, and you're really ruining things. All right, so Ochoa, he had his 3rd shutout in his 4th game for Malaga, and the recent match ended 0-0. But then again, Kameni, he looks like he's back in full health, and he might start this weekend. Marco Fabian on Frankfurt. Yeah, it's Frankfurt.
Frank what?
Yeah, Frankfurt. Yeah, Frankfurt. That's what it is from now on. We're calling it Frankfurt. All right, so Frankfurt, they lost to Hoffenheim 2-0, and Fabian only played in the last 15 minutes. Hector Moreno, he played the 90 minutes for PSV in the 2-0 win over Willem. Guardado is unfortunately still injured. Raul Jimenez, key to point out, he scored the game-winning goal for Benfica and the 2-1 win over Académica. We have Carlos Vela and Diego Reyes, who took part in the full match in the 1-0 win over Barcelona, which was definitely important to consider, especially since it looked as if Reyes was a standout in that match. And when you look at the stats, it does look like he did very well in that game. Raul Godinho, his side, Unal de Maireda, lost 1-0 against Tondela. The Port 3 guys, they lost 1-0 against Ferreira. Looks like Porto's struggling a little bit. They're now in third place with 61 points, and then they're 10 points behind second place, who has 71 points. Alan Polido, he got a goal over the weekend in the 5-2 win over Panathinaikos. I'm gonna butcher all those Greek teams, but yeah, he got a goal in that match. And I think another big thing to notice too is Jonathan Dos Santos. He got some cameo minutes in the 2-0 win for Villarreal over Getafe. Actually, it looks like there is plenty. There's plenty to talk about. But if there are a couple things that stand out to you in that weekend for the Europeos, what stands out to you? I'm going to go over to Naib. Naib, what stood out to you from that weekend for the Europeos?
No, I think with the win, Real Sociedad's win over Barcelona stands out. And of course the participation that Diego Reyes, might have had in the shout. It's not it's not typical to Reyes is on a path of consolidating his career in Europe, especially after this season he had in Real Sociedad. We don't know if he will stay there. What's going to happen afterwards? Will he move on from FC Porto? With the FC Porto, I mean, it's been a really sad season in a way, because it started with Julen Lopetegui. It sort of started out west, which the fact that they're playing often with the team, having 30 minutes, you can tell when they play with the national team. In a sense, is when they come with El Tri, they're enjoying themselves. It's not so negative as it's the case in FC Porto at the moment. Mm-hmm. So I think even if they're struggling, I think they'll be in top shape with El Tri come the summer, and I think that's important because you can say they're sort of the important assets in Juan Carlos Osorio's lineup. And I think in the next weeks, in this show, we already talked about Alan Pulido many times. Mm-hmm. But if he keeps scoring, I think he should become an option, because I don't think Lalo Herrera is ahead of Alan Pulido. I think Alan Pulido surpasses Lalo Herrera. So if you can have Pulido, Raul Jimenez, Chicharito, and the Copa America, I think you're in Oribe Peralta, you're set. You got 4 top strikers there to sort of mix in what lineup you want to have.
Interesting. I would like to respond to that, but first I would like to hear what Tom's thoughts are on the Europeo weekend.
Yeah, I think Raul Jimenez, not just for the past weekend, but for the game tomorrow against Bayern Munich. I think, massive quarterfinal of the Champions League, and these are the big games where you want to see those Mexican national team players making an impact. So, and Jimenez has got that knack of kind of, when there's a big game, he tends to show up. So, I'm looking forward to see. Hopefully, he gets some minutes and can do something. Yes. Apart from that, Guardado's injury as well. Let's see how that develops. And then, what else? Yeah, Porto. Yeah, not the best, but Porto should be winning the league for me.
Yeah,
they should be winning the league, though. I mean, I think with that team that they've got, they should be winning the league. I think they've messed up. Probably would have liked to have seen a bit more from Tecatito in recent weeks. I don't think he's on fire like he was earlier in the season. And let's see how Marco Fabian develops as well, because it seems like Osorio really likes Fabian over there. So, let's see if he can actually find some consistent minutes with Eintracht Frankfurt and see, and see if he can get into that Copa America place.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's the big thing is like when you consider players like Fabian or you consider players like Polido, is you or even someone to an extent, Jonathan Dos Santos, is you think about the Olympics as well because it's not just the Copa America this summer. You think about those players who could potentially have an impact in the Olympic squad, and I think at least for me, like I wrote a piece recently regarding the three overage players who I would like to send to the Olympics. And what I originally said was Peralta, and I would like to see Ayala, and I'd like to see Gaito. I think those would be my three. But honestly, those three players are changing every day. I think it's constantly changing every day. And now I think you could potentially make a case for someone like Polido. I think maybe someone like Polido who isn't getting minutes, or I was even saying like Brizuela. I know we're changing topics a little bit here, but
Yeah, I think that yeah. My thoughts on the three overage players. I think it's difficult that you can get a Europe-based player. I think it's difficult for a Europe-based player to be included. I think the exception there might be. But I think there might be two. I think there might be, well, obviously Tecatito, but he's not going to be overage. I think the exception could be Guardado. And I say that because I just think he's got the authority within the club to kind of demand his terms, you know what I mean? I think he can say, you know what, PSV, I want to play both, you know, I'm going to go there, you know, let me do it as a favour. And I think that he might have enough kind of backing there to be able to do that. You know, and obviously if they're automatically in the Champions League as well, then they won't have Champions League in August. I think Chicharito's the one that everyone's talking about, but I mean, I know I've said it before. I just can't see it. I just can't see him being at the Olympics.
I can't see either. I can't see why anybody would allow Chicharito to play in the Olympics as opposed to Copa America. I can't imagine like there's got to be some people in the Copa America too who are pulling strings somewhere and being like, we can't not have Chicharito show up.
No, I think even on the football point of view, I think Osorio, he doesn't get many chances to play his best team against top teams in competitive environment. And that's what we've got this summer in the Copa America. It's very rare for Mexico to have it. I mean, the Gold Cup doesn't provide that. It just doesn't provide the competition. Like, let's team just sit back against me, get one type of challenge. I know that's a generalization, but you know, I think it's generally true. But So yeah, and then the Olympics. I don't know. I was a bit disappointed yesterday. You know, Desio Di Maria. He was asked on Comics Masters like, which is more important, the Copa America or the Olympics? And he was like, oh, you know, they're both important. I was like, I mean, for me, the Copa America is by far the most important competition. The Olympics is an underage competition.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, and most teams in the world don't take it that seriously. I mean, I'm not taking away from what Mexico did last time, but most teams in the world don't. So, you know, I think you've got to put it in perspective. Whereas the Copa America, I think most of the South American teams are gonna really go for it.
Yeah. All right. Well, we went on a little bit of a tangent there for a little bit. We started talking about the Copa America and the rosters. That's okay. That's just what happens. You got to embrace it sometimes. Just see where the conversation is going. And sorry to go back to Tom once again. Just we should be wrapping up the show. Maybe we'll stay. If you guys are okay, just staying on for 10 minutes longer. Just quickly talk about some things.
I think quickly I'll go for my three Olympic overage players. I think I'd go.
And then we'll go to Boss Naib, and then after that, Tom, I want you to give us a little bit of a summary on the updates on Article 19. So, all right, Tom, go for it.
Okay. I think Talavera as a goalkeeper. I think Guardado as a central midfielder, and I think definitely need a striker. So I mean, if Polido's available, and I'm not sure he will be because you know if he's in Europe, then a club might not want to let him go, especially if they've got Champions League matches that that could involve millions of euros. Millions of euros could be in the line. Then maybe a Polido, maybe a Vela. I mean, Vela, there's no guarantee he's going to be in the Copa America. But why not test Vela and be like, right, if Vela really wants to be part of this national team, okay, go to the let's see how you do at the Olympics. I don't know, Giovanni Dos Santos. I mean, I think MLS would definitely let him go because they want the exposure. So I'd go for three players like that. Definitely Talavera, definitely Guardado, and then one striker.
Naib, throwing this at you. Which three players would you consider? Which three overage players right now? Even though I know you've mentioned in the past you wanted to see the last two games that they were involved with in Portugal, but if you were to choose three right now, who would be taking part in the competition? Who would they be? Oh, we lost
I think
Naib.
I think the question just threw him. He blew his mind.
All right, Naib. If there's no answer, then I'll give my answer. Naib, can you hear us?
Well, I can hear you. I don't know. Can you hear me?
A little bit. It's a little on and off. So if you can give us those three, which three? Just yell them.
Oh my God. Gallito, Talavera, and Ase Giovanni goes to another Olympics.
Ooh, I like it.
Okay.
For me, I
The
think
third-
I agree with. I like the idea of Gallito being there, but I think that a lot of that has to depend on the fact on how Jonathan Dos Santos does. I'm assuming that he played some minutes. I'm assuming he's going to do well. He's going to get some minutes. He's going to play as a defensive mid or a right mid with Villarreal, and he'll be back up to health. But if Jonah is struggling within the next couple months, which is normal, he's coming back from an injury, then I'd be a little bit cautious about sending Gallito.
Yeah.
Assuming Jonah is completely healthy, yeah, let's send Gallito over to the Olympics and let's see what he can do. I think Mexico, as opposed, at least in the Olympic roster, I don't think they need a goalkeeper. I think they need someone with experience in defense, which is why I would send Hugo Ayala, and I think that benefits both parties. I don't think Ayala would get much minutes with the Copa America squad. I don't think he may not even be in the roster, but I think he would provide plenty of experience, and also, he at least a little bit more. He'd be a veteran experience in the center of the defense, and up top. I would say either, no, like you guys were saying, it's got to be either Polido or Peralta for me. Peralta's been doing very well. Polido's been scoring as well too, but I can't see them being starters in the Copa America squad. So I'd like to see one of those two in the roster.
Good stuff.
And those are my thoughts. All right.
Yeah, and
There's a lot of options.
and like real quick on this team is really uncertain the direction that it's taking, and I think right now I said three names, but it can radically change in the next weeks.
Yeah, no, I agree.
I think what happened just recently in the tour to Europe. I mean, I think Tom will have a good piece coming out in the next days with Eric Aguirre, who was part of that team, and you'll be able to get more info there. But it doesn't look good when you go to Europe and you lose the game, 2-1 against Japan, and then you got obliterated by Portugal over there 4-0. It doesn't look positive. U23 team will get hurt by the fact that Chucky Lozano is already sort of a senior team player, because I think Chucky Lozano was the team played around Chucky Lozano in the qualifiers a couple of months ago. So, or you never know. Maybe Chucky Lozano plays both tournaments.
Yeah, he'll play. I think the Pachuca guys will play both, because I think the Jesus Martinez, the president, he said, that they're open tournaments, and I think all the domestic. I don't think there's much problem with the domestic players. I think they'll be able to play both tournaments, because I just don't. That's how the Liga MX works. There's not much difference really between the league and the federation. It's not like certain situations in Europe. I mean, they're pretty much. I know in theory there's a separation, but I think pretty much going through the same lines.
Yeah. No, we'll see how that goes. All right. So we're gonna try to pack some stuff up in the last 10 minutes. Tom. So I'm gonna try to do is I'm gonna try to get Tom to give us a little bit of an update on Article 19, really quickly. Answer.
Does one of you two want to give like a summary of the story, and then maybe I'll answer the questions about what's going on.
I mean, if I'm being honest, maybe Naive can, but I think you might be that person to give the best summary. But that's just me saying that. I don't know. Unless if Naive feels he could do that.
No, I mean, I can sort of roll in, with as long as my Wi-Fi stays put, So I mean, I think last week in ESPN we brought to the table this topic, the question, describe it as to whether Mexican clubs are actually breaking the rules, when it comes to these minors that are transferring to Mexican clubs, that come from the U.S. at a young age, before 18 years old, and then countries, Pachuca, Chivas, Tigres, Monterrey, teams that are really interested in players from the U.S. And all of this derives because of what happened in Spain with Barcelona and also, Real Madrid and Atletico Madrid. Real Madrid and Atletico Madrid still haven't had transfer bans, but it could happen. It still hasn't been announced. With FC Barcelona, we already saw that they did, in fact, have a transfer ban. And I think the developments that have occurred in the last weeks, well, in the last days to be exact, is that people in the business, we spoke with Marco Garces on Friday, and he opened up about the topic, saying that this Article 19 was sort of made up in the European context. You have African players or Asian players heading at 15 to Europe without their families or whatever, and then they get lost in Europe. But the context in Mexico is different because a lot of the players that come over there have both nationalities, Mexican and U.S. citizenship. So that sort of changes the context, and that's what Marco Garces has said on Friday, and also Decio de Maria has sort of said in the last couple of hours. But I'll give the table to Tom, who is the one that did this research deep.
No, yeah, I mean that's the issue. The players coming down from the US, dual nationals, coming to Mexican clubs, and some of them very, very young. Talking 13, 14 years old, and it appears to breach FIFA rules. Article 19 doesn't include nationality as a kind of and Real Madrid have got suspended bans depending on what happens at the Court of Arbitration for Sport in Switzerland. I heard that players aren't being registered in Mexico because they fear, that FIFA would investigate an act, and they could be sanctioned or they could get fined. Now, I think this issue has been going on. This issue hasn't just come to the fore because of the story that went out. This has been going on. So the players have come down here and not been registered, and I think they've been suffering. I mean, the young kids have been suffering. They've not been registered, not been able to play. So now this is out in the open, and it's great that people in the Mexican game have come out and responded and said, you know what, we need to go to FIFA. We need to get organised, go to FIFA, and try and get some kind of exemption. I completely understand the rationale of the Mexican clubs in saying these circumstances are different. However, I have to admit, for them to get an exemption, I think it's going to be difficult. It's going to be a long battle. I mean, I really do think that. I say that because Article 19 is pretty specific in that the idea of it is that if you're under 18, you don't take the players out of the home environment. Now, if you've got a Mexican-American kid who's 14 years old from Houston, for example, that's the home environment is Houston, and to bring them then to Mexico, that, as you understand the rule and as you look at the precedents that FIFA have given, it seems like FIFA don't want that. They don't want them to come to Mexico to pursue a career in football.
No.
They can come to Mexico. Go on.
Oh no,
Sorry.
I was gonna say that makes sense, but then I forget who was online who said that, who made a comment saying like, well, you feel as if the Mexican Federation could also make the case, or just Liga MX can make a case saying like, what's the difference between that and let's say some kid living in Oregon with his family, and he can play for the youth side in Florida, moves away from his family, goes all the way across the country, even further than someone from the United States to Mexico. So that would be completely legal, but at the same time, why is it illegal for someone to say from Houston to even like Monterrey? Like, why would that be legal? I'm just playing devil's advocate here, but
yeah, and I mean, obviously, I mean, this is another. I mean, I agree completely with what Naib said, and I think that that some of the point of this story is to like raise the question and get an answer. And I think we want an answer from FIFA. Yeah. I'm not kind of judging the Mexican clubs and saying this is what they've done is wrong, it's awful. Ban them for 10 years. You know what I mean? The idea is to say this is an issue, this is a problem, this is going on. let's, instead of keeping it in the shadows, like I am in a minute, let's get it out and let's talk about it and let's go to FIFA and kind of ask for an answer. But another point that I think is worth pointing out is the argument from the Mexican clubs and the federation is that, and Marco Garces, Naib spoke to Marco Garces, and Pachuca are an excellent organization. I think the vanguard of youth soccer in Mexico. I mean, the results are there. Chivas as well. I think both those clubs, and Tigres, Monterrey, Cholos, I think they've got the good of the kids largely at heart. I'm not saying they're perfect by any means, but in terms of providing education, good housing, good training, good facilities, I think those clubs tick the boxes. But I think the problem the Mexican clubs are going to have is persuading when you've got a club like, I'll say it, like Chiapas. I know I mentioned it before, but when you've got that club, then is it morally right for a 14-year-old kid to take a chance when all these players have only got? I'm playing devil's advocate here as well. I'm trying to see the negative side. For a kid from Los Angeles to move to Tuxtla Gutierrez as a 14-year-old or as a 13-year-old. I mean, they just started in the 13s league. So I mean, it's a difficult question. I mean, legally, it looks like the Mexican teams have broken the law, the FIFA's regulations. Sorry, it looks that way. Maybe a team of lawyers will be able to pick out some holes and stuff. Maybe they be. I'm not a lawyer. All I know is that the Mexican teams themselves are scared of potential FIFA action. But I think then there's the moral side, and that's the thing I'm talking about. If it's a 15-year-old kid who goes from Los Angeles to Pachuca to pursue a dream and pursue a career, and the parents are Mexican, he speaks Spanish culturally, is well grounded in how Mexico is, then that's one thing. But then how old are we talking? Is it right for an 8-year-old? Is it right for a 10-year-old?
No.
To leave their parents and go to Tuxtla Gutierrez, Veracruz? I mean, we know there's some bad practices in Mexico. We know that. I mean, players have talked about it. It's not just me that's saying that. So that's the. I mean, I guess that's the picture that we're painting. But bottom line is, I'm pretty happy because it looks like the federation and the Liga MX clubs have gone to FIFA and are now actually kind of openly talking about it, which is the result we want. And we basically want to know, because we've got kids here now in Chivas, for example. I spoke to one of them, and he's just in limbo. He's just here in Guadalajara. His parents aren't here or anything. He's a minor, and it's like he needs to. What's the answer? What's the answer to that? I mean, if it is they can't come down, then maybe Liga MX clubs can set up academies up there. I think that's what Barcelona have done. So we just need to clear it out and clear it up. And make sure that everybody does actually know the rules as they are and as FIFA wants them to be.
I think the big thing is that we're talking about it, and I think that we continue this conversation. I think that hopefully there continues to be some sort of conversation, hopefully amongst Liga MX, maybe potentially in FIFA, to see what isn't allowed, and I think that is what's important right now. And I think hopefully we can make some progress from this and figure out what the league can do or what FIFA will do in this situation.
Well, just to add a little bit to what Tom said, I mean, he didn't mention Santos, and Santos is another club that does well with the youth team.
Yeah, sorry.
But I think the FMF has to be a bit stricter. Yeah, it has to be a bit stricter with there seems adequately. Chia Cruz, Puebla, those are not youth that are not teams that are known for the youth systems. I think all teams have to sort of work in sort of one line together. So because I think at the end of the day, if everything gets in a way fixed, if nothing is done illegally, and when you look at the rules that FIFA has, I think there's a lot of potential with players in the U.S. Mm-hmm. I asked Marco Garces, what he sees is that a lot of Mexican American players he sees over there in the U.S., they don't want to play in MLS. They want to play in Liga MX. And
Yeah.
what I think Liga MX has to do is foment
Mhm.
those systems, but not just
Cutting out a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think we get what he's
I
saying.
think
There is, you
yeah,
know,
we got the general idea from Naive right there.
yeah,
Tom, you're
no,
saying.
yeah, no, he's right. God says that's what he said in the interview, that that most of these kids want to play Mexico, and let's be honest, let's be really blunt about it. For a kid in the States, and you can imagine. I mean, obviously you can't speak for Jurgen Klinsmann, but and I'm sure he would never say it on record. But if you're Jurgen Klinsmann, the top of the U.S. food chain,
Mhm.
and you've got a 15-year-old Mexican American kid who's part of the US system, then do you want him to go through, I don't know, DC United or New York Red Bulls or San Jose Earthquakes youth system? Or do you want him to play in Pachuca?
Yeah.
I mean, Tab Ramos' son is in Pachuca. I mean, why is he in Pachuca? One of the top figures in US soccer, his son plays in Pachuca. And I think, I don't know,
And
you can't say it's...
as Naive mentioned that has nothing to do at all with the fact that like some of these young players, like regardless of how good those academies are, they would rather go down there. I mean, someone like me, and I've made this argument so many times, but I'm as Americanized as you can be. I'm as I was born here, speak mostly English, but if I had an opportunity and if I was good enough, I'm not a good soccer player. I wish I was. If I was a better soccer player, and if I had an opportunity to play somewhere in Mexico, if I had someone to play even the Galaxy in a second, I would have gone down to Mexico. And there are numerous people like me, like numerous fans who would make that decision as well.
The other thing Naeem was saying there, I don't know, was fomenting the idea that Mexican Americans going to be can continue to prefer the Liga MX and the Mexican national team. I mean, I know I've talked about this before on the show, but I think Liga MX has to be up there and pressing itself more and more, especially in English language,
Oh, yeah,
to make sure that the next generation of Mexican and understand it and love Chivas and love America and love Pumas, love where the family, has come from.
All right, sorry, I had a little bit of lag there. Actually, it seems like I'm the MVP of this podcast since Naive and Tom were both lagging a bit with the internet, but that's not their fault. All right, so I mean, but I'm in agreement. I definitely, I just said I'm in agreement, but I'm not even gonna pretend to know what we've been talking about for the last 20 minutes. We really went in a lot of different tangents, but I like when we go in tangents. I think it's great. Actually, I think it's fantastic when we don't
Yeah, yeah.
stick to our
I
script.
think that's one of the problems that I know, like I went on that football picante and that sports center in Mexico, which was pretty crazy. But I thought after that, then all the other media outlets would pick up on it and it would go kind of even bigger. You know what I mean? But I think because it's a bit complicated.
Yeah. It is most definitely a complicated situation. Oh,
It's
good.
not the easiest subject
Sorry, everyone. These last like 15 to 20 minutes have just been I know it's been a little shaky internet.
and yeah. Anyway,
All right.
all
Well,
right.
maybe oh my God. See, that might be it. Show, right? That's all that audio feedback, right? So the end of the show, I was gonna ask a couple of questions. I'm sorry to Colorful Kit and at Christian Chapoy, who I was gonna ask a couple of their questions. But you know what? Let's answer one of them.
Can you hear me, Cesar?
Yeah, I know. Tom, I'm a little worried about Tom right now. Oh my God, Tom, what's going on?
Yeah.
Yeah, it kind of sounds like you're in some sort of snowstorm, to be honest, though. All right, now we're good. All right. All right, so to end the show, it's been about an hour and 17 minutes. I've had a good time. Honestly, we could probably keep this up for multiple hours, but let's end the show with I liked a couple of questions that some of the fans asked us, and I'm sorry to Colorful Kit. I like his question, but I'm going to refer to the one from @ChristianChaboy. He says, "Who is the most over and underrated Liga MX player, and the most over and underrated Mexican national team player?" So let's keep these answers short. Tom, I'm going to go to you really quickly. Most overrated Liga MX player, most underrated Liga MX player, most overrated Mexican player, most underrated Mexican player. Let's hear it. We won't judge. It's okay. Your answer could change probably like a week from now. But let's just hear what your immediate answer would be. Oh, see, now his internet isn't working. He doesn't want to be put on the spot. Naive.
Can you hear me?
We might just have to end the show. Naive, anything from you?
Or no?
I can barely hear you. This might be a sign. I'm sorry, everyone. Let me really quickly give you my answers. I think the most underrated Liga MX player is Jairo Gonzalez from Dorados. Most overrated, I'm gonna say Jurgen Damm. Most overrated Mexican national team player right now, I'm gonna say Lalo Herrera. Most underrated, Hector Moreno. There we go. Naive, before we head out, just because things are like falling apart more quickly than Xolos' defense against America the other night. Any last thoughts? It's okay. You know what? I'm sorry, everyone. I'm here. I'm the last one. I'm doing my best. I'm holding up the show. I'm sorry. But thanks to everyone who joined on the chat. Thanks to everyone who took part in the conversation. Thank you to Tom and Naive. I like to make fun of them, but for their internet connections, it's not their fault. They're doing their best to deal with the current situation for them. Oh, we heard something from Naive. But anyhow, I'll just end it because it'll just be like this for another 40 minutes. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you look down here, I might be pointing there. It might be pointing over there. Click subscribe. I promise next time we'll have better internet connections. And thank everyone in the chat. And until then, we're gonna take this Thursday off. I know Weiss is gonna be busy, and I'm gonna be busy as well. But we'll be back next Monday and hosting another episode of the Mexican Soccer Show. Thank you to everyone in the chat, and yeah, have a good night, guys. Goodbye. Goodbye.